Amidst the demon lord's invasion to eradicate humanity's existence, a dragon conquered the skies under its master, who sought absolute power to obtain the happiness he desired. Even his talismans were able to level entire fields and burn cities away. While his dragon alone was one of the 7 ancient deities that ruled the world, it was because of his conquest to reach divine power that he opposed the imperial court to become the strongest exorcist. Society began to fear him. His family was burned alive, betrayed at the hands of his favorite student, but he knew that it wasn't her fault since they had taken her family hostage as well. So, in his next life, he swore to be more cunning and activated the forbidden god magic under the full moon. His soul possessed a child as his father assessed his magical potential, but the spell collapsed, and GLY was glad that their useless brother was unable to use any magic. He had reincarnated in a world with a different magical flow, but although his body lacked all magical mana, he sensed the infinite spirit arts dormant within him. Every morning, he would gather hundreds of leaves, since paper was expensive, and used his arts to transform them into shikigami that would give life to mice and crows. GLY would often taunt Saika for being a bastard child, making cruel remarks. Despite Saika's pleas to stop, GLY would grab him by the collar and strike him. However, things took an unexpected turn when the crows began attacking GLY. As Lu stepped in to drive them off, he noticed something strange. The crows avoided Saika entirely, which made him suspicious. Saika, aware that no one would celebrate his 7th birthday, spent his days alone, ignored by all because of his status as a child born from an affair. Despite the rejection, he worked tirelessly in the fields to prepare paper for his talisman making. One day, the maid Aoife arrived at his door, holding his coat, which she had found in the bushes. Saika immediately suspected GLY's involvement but lashed out at Aoife, ordering her to return to her duties. He also reminded her that he would never become a slave, as a magicless failure like him could never attend the prestigious Imperial Lodonia Academy. Soon after, Blaze appeared, commanding GLY to return to his magical lessons. As they walked away, Saika asked his father if he could join their training in the field. Luft, demonstrating his mastery of magic, cast the Wind's Edge incantation, creating a vortex that shattered a stone. Next, GLY took his turn, summoning the spirits of flame to launch a fireball that scorched the stone to ash. He looked on, smug, believing Saika would only embarrass himself. However, when Saika took the wand and recalled his vow to suppress his power in this life, he realized something crucial. The strong often exploited the weak. He decided to act. Saika used his spiritual arts to create the illusion of magic, casting a blue fireball that destroyed the rock with ease. His performance astonished everyone, as no one had ever executed an incantation like that before. GLY, confused, thought that his magic must have remained in the wand. When Saika asked Blaze if he could learn magic, his father dismissed him, claiming it was pointless to train a talentless mage. Nevertheless, Blaze reluctantly agreed to assign him a tutor, just as he had done for his other sons. Over the next few years, Saika diligently studied the world's language while secretly observing his siblings. Throughout this time, Blaze began to wonder if Saika might be part demon, though he kept his thoughts to himself. By the time Saika turned 11, he had not forgotten the 7 deities he had sealed away. He knew it was time to summon his least powerful servant, someone who would not pose a threat, but would be a valuable ally in his journey ahead. So, as an ancient door materialized before his eyes and a hot girl emerged, but Saika couldn't recognize who she was. However, when she jumped on him, he realized it was definitely the dumb bitch Yuki, but wondered why she was no longer a beautiful woman. Realizing that his spiritual power must be a lot weaker in this young body, she swore that she'll serve him forever. But he revealed that he was only testing the dimensional gate's abilities in this world. So, as he tried sealing her Saika ass away, she transformed into a small fox, swearing that she would never leave his side again. Following morning, GLY began screaming at Aoife for dropping the water on his clothes. But as he kept scolding her, he said that he would be willing to forgive her if she came to his room and would educate her on what it meant to be a slave. However, Saika told his brother to stop abusing her. But when GLY heard Saika's insolence and tried punching him, Saika blocked his attack. So, GLY stared at him before pulling away, telling him that he's playing with his life. Once he was gone, Saika told Aoife to never go to GLY's room. So, she promised that she won't but asked him if he could follow her outside as she showed him the dying baby Eve. He asked her to turn away to conceal his powers. After pulling a hair and infusing it with his talisman, the Shikigami was sacrificed to heal the Vaporeon, and Ifa was shocked that he was able to use magic when he was born without any mana. But when he thought that she was also hiding her secret ability, she told him it's not like she can see spirits or anything like that, baka. He admitted he could see spirits but believed her sight extended beyond his. Curious, he asked what it was, and she confessed her secret. She could see elementals, the hidden forces of the world. However, she found it peculiar that every elemental seemed to avoid him, though he was unaware of why. Recognizing her unique ability to control them, something he had failed to achieve in his past life, he realized she was the one he had been searching for. With newfound purpose, he asked if she wished to learn magic, summoning a fireball in the air with the power of his Shikigami. She hadn't ever tried to use magic before, so she asked the fireball to disappear politely, and when it didn't listen, she tried begging the fireball to leave. However, she screamed that no one would miss its ugly ass, causing the flame to disappear out of existence. And Saika realized that he was lucky to find someone who could dispel magic, asking her to keep her powers a secret between them. Over the weeks, he trained her relentlessly until she could control the flow of her mana. Seasons passed as they honed her skills together, culminating in her mastery of dispelling magic. Today marked Saika's 12th birthday, but unlike his brothers, there were no gifts, no cake, and not even his father to celebrate with him. He had long grown accustomed to their disdain, but GLY summoned him, coldly declaring that his mother's status as a mistress left him with only one option: training his frail body to join the army. As Saika processed this harsh reality, a scream shattered the tense atmosphere. A maid shouted that a massive monster was approaching the mansion. Calmly, Saika revealed that the creature had already arrived. In the distance, the elder Newt crushed a tree, sending GLY fleeing to save his worthless life while Luft scrambled to order the maids to evacuate. Amid the chaos, Saika noticed Ifa in the path of the rampaging beast. As the creature lunged to devour her, she unleashed the elementals, incinerating it in a fiery blaze. The moment she was safe, Saika turned his attention to the monster, commanding it to follow him. Leaping into the air, he drew the gaze of every servant in the mansion. The veins of the elder Newt pulsed as they absorbed poison, a seemingly fatal reaction, but Saika had already tamed it in secret. His brother, Luft, watched in disbelief, unable to comprehend how Saika had subdued the beast with a single maneuver. The household was awestruck, murmuring about his extraordinary power. Saika waved back at them, hiding a smirk. Everything had gone precisely as planned. In this reincarnated life, he resolved to be cunning, to outwit those who underestimated him, and, most importantly, to claim the happiness he had been denied for so long. At the same time, his father had seen the battle and decided to hold a feast in honor of his bastard son. But although the worthless attention was pissed off, Blaze wanted to reward Saika for defending the mansion. So, Saika revealed that he did have one request, asking for his permission to enroll in the Lodonia Magic Academy. But when his father accepted his request, Saika asked for Ifa to be enrolled as his servant as well. However, Blaze thought that she lacked mana, but Saika told him to shut his worthless fucking mouth and decided to show him her power before everyone. He asked Ifa to shout, "Flame not," before giving her his wand. So, because she wanted to stay with Saika her entire life, she began to awaken all of the flame elementals in the forest as she said the word, "Flame not." A massive mid-rank fireball erupted outside of the window. So, when Saika asked if his dad was satisfied, he said that he would enroll them. But GLY's ugly ass thought it was unacceptable. The Lamprogue family tradition dictated that no two brothers could follow the same path. Their father, Blaze, insisted on upholding this rule, even for a so-called failure and worthless slave like Saika. However, to everyone's surprise, Blaze declared that it would be GLY, not Saika, who would join the army. Blaze then turned to GLY, questioning his dedication. While Saika had been tirelessly training every day, GLY had wasted years mingling with bad influences and playing with his sword. Outraged and unwilling to accept his father's judgment, GLY challenged Saika to a duel. The stakes were high. If Saika lost, he would be banished from their home. Blaze offered Saika the chance to decline, but Saika calmly accepted. Their father agreed to oversee the duel, imposing strict rules. No real swords or mid-rank magic inside the room. Before the match, Saika worked on crafting more talismans. His focus was interrupted by a knock at the door. Luft entered, apologizing for being late to wish him a happy birthday and presenting him with a glass pen. Luft admitted regretting his lack of kindness over the years, but expressed pride in how much Saika had grown. He asked his younger brother to go easy on GLY, confessing that he had always known Saika was the strongest among them. As the two moons rose, Yuki dismissed Luft's gift as worthless. Annoyed, Saika snapped back, calling her the truly worthless one. But his irritation was cut short when he sensed something amiss. He ordered Yuki to hide just as the window exploded open. Looking outside, he spotted GLY in the field, yelling that their duel had already begun. GLY, consumed by arrogance, believed Saika's victory over the Elder Newt was mere luck. He declared his intent to fight to the death, disregarding their father's conditions. Summoning a magical sigil, GLY cast Flame Knot, aiming to incinerate Saika in a fiery blaze. As the flames roared toward him, Saika stood unfazed, prepared for the battle ahead. He thought that his spell was much stronger than his worthless slave, but Saika told him that it would never compare to Ifa's flames. Shocked that Saika had survived, GLY unleashed Wind Lance, aiming to pierce his brother, only to see the spell deflected by a shimmering light magic barrier. Calm and unshaken, Saika pulled out his talisman as GLY recklessly hurled every spell at his disposal. With a commanding voice, Saika declared GLY forbidden to move, instantly paralyzing his neurons and rendering him helpless. Then, twisting the talisman, Saika caused GLY to feel the agonizing illusion of his arm breaking, though the damage wasn't real. Terrified, GLY demanded to know what Saika truly was, but Saika interpreted the question as surrender. With a flicker of mercy, he healed GLY's arm, leaving him to collapse in defeat. As Saika stared down at GLY's pitiful, broken expression, he recalled his brother's earlier claim that his victory over the Elder Newt was pure luck. The memory amused him because the truth was far more calculated. Months of preparation had led to this moment. After summoning his second divine deity, a towering Cyclops had entered the realm, its massive form charging towards Saika with a booming voice, declaring its loyalty once more. Yuki, however, interjected, reminding the Cyclops that she was Saika's first summon. Brushing aside her complaint, Saika ordered the Cyclops to follow his Shikigami and drive the Elder Newt back into the forests. It had all been a ploy. The Newt was intentionally lured toward the mansion, forcing everyone to witness Saika's power. This spectacle ensured that he, not GLY, would gain the right to attend the Magic Academy. Still, Yuki questioned his intricate schemes, arguing that in this world of weak humans, he could simply take whatever he desired. But Saika's expression darkened as he reminded her why he had chosen this path. It was weak humans who had killed him in his previous life. In this second life, he had no interest in absolute power, which had brought him nothing but isolation and despair. Instead, he sought the simple, fleeting happiness of living among the weak, of being one of them. When spring finally arrived, Luft bid his brother farewell, wishing for his safety as Saika prepared to embrace the next chapter of his life. But after Ifa yawned, Luft wondered if she had stayed up so late. So, Saika revealed that she was doing something hard in his room all night. As their carriage began pulling away, Saika wanted to reward Ifa for studying all last night. So, she promised that she would treasure it, and he revealed that this would draw the elementals towards her. He wanted her to become the strongest elementalist possible. But when he looked out the window, he realized they were already at the Academy City and wondered how time had managed to warp back inside of his office. Blaze reflected on how 12 years had passed so quickly since Saika's arrival. On a stormy night long ago, an assassin had delivered his brother's child to him. Blaze suspected his brother had perished after vanishing in the Demon Continent. The boy, with his rare black hair and eyes, stood out as an anomaly. Luft kept his distance, while GLY regarded him as an enemy. Blaze often wondered if Saika was truly human. The child's ability to summon blue fireballs without any magic training and use poison against the Elder Newt, something no human had ever achieved, raised unsettling questions. Guiltily, Blaze regretted sending GLY to the army but feared the alternative. If Saika witnessed the horrors of war, he might not become humanity's savior but its destruction, the next demon king who would wipe them out. Once they arrived at Saika's dorm, he revealed that her room would be next to his. But those words made her sad as she thought he was her master now, so she asked him if she should come to his room at night. But he told her that he didn't need a cutting board since she looked like an emo with a flat-ass chest. After she ran out crying, Yuki grew angry that the worthless slave didn't know her place. But when Saika wondered what she meant, Yuki revealed that Ifa was in love with him and wanted him to use her as a slave to fulfill her fantasies. Hearing those words, he realized that he would truly never understand how girls think. So, Yuki told him to study or he would have a hard time. But he realized that Ifa was going to make something else hard at the prestigious Lodonia Academy. A mysterious pool of mana had been gathering in the air, but Saika's thoughts were interrupted as the examiner began evaluating the mana levels of all the applicants. When Saika's turn came, the examiner instructed him to place his hand on the crystal sphere, explaining that it would shine white if he possessed aptitude for all elements. A phenomenon yet unheard of. In this world, magic was categorized into 4 primary elements, along with rarer light and shadow magic, which reminded Saika of the magic he had invented in his previous life. When Ifa infused her mana into the sphere, it revealed her aptitude for both wind and fire magic. But when Saika placed his hand on the sphere, nothing happened. The examiner speculated that he might have light or shadow aptitude, but Saika declared he had no magic at all. Whispers erupted, accusing him of relying on connections to enter the academy. Suddenly, a girl silenced the crowd with a commanding shout. Introducing herself as Amy, she approached the sphere, and as her hand touched it, a blinding white light engulfed the room. The applicants were stunned to realize she had mastery over all 4 elements. Saika, however, was struck for another reason. Despite her changed hair color, Amy was unmistakably someone he had known closely in his past life. That night, elsewhere, a blue-haired girl grew anxious, and in a dark chamber, the Demon Lord issued a single command to General Galios: crush the hero. The next day, Saika completed the written exam before spotting Amy practicing swordsmanship. Intrigued, he wondered how strong she truly was. In the training field, the examiner announced the next test, evaluating the strength of their elemental magic. One by one, students demonstrated their fire magic, but to Saika, their abilities seemed unimpressive and limited to a single element. It was Ifa's turn next. She confidently approached the stone and cast Flame Knot without an incantation, unleashing a fire blast so intense that it nearly destroyed the target. The other students gasped, marveling at her skill. But Ifa wasn't done. Moving to her next spell, she raised her wand and cast Wind Lance, obliterating the stone entirely. Saika, amazed, realized her magic had surpassed his expectations. Yet even as he admired her abilities, she turned to him and apologized for destroying the targets. She explained that she had been secretly practicing her magic to improve. Overwhelmed with pride, Saika felt tears forming. Her dedication and progress were everything a master could hope for. When it was finally Saika's turn, he calmly stepped forward and summoned a fireball. The flame engulfed the blue target, leaving the crowd in stunned silence. As the flames continued to burn away the granite, Saika moved on, analyzing its composition. Deciding to combine the phases of earth and metal, he cast his unique crystallization magic, unleashing sharp crystalline spikes that shattered the target. Even the examiner was taken aback. Such magic had never been seen before. Saika apologized, explaining that his spell was a secret, though he knew he could never reveal the truth. He wasn't using magic at all. At the water target, Saika silently summoned an invisible water shikigami, infusing it with a shadow phase. With a subtle gesture, he released a torrent of water that froze the entire field in an instant. Satisfied with the damage he had caused, Saika ended his demonstration. Ifa laughed, declaring her pride in having the strongest person alive by her side. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the examiner stood in awe, wondering how Saika and Ifa had managed to unleash spells stronger than anything in the Academy's history, despite their apparent lack of magical power. However, his amazement didn't end there. Another student had emerged, one even more powerful than Saika and Ifa, capable of mastering all types of magic at a young age. The red-haired examiner suspected she might be the destined hero, born to counter the Demon King's revival. The results of the exam were announced. As Saika searched for their names, Aoife clung to him, begging him not to abandon her if she had failed. To his relief, he found his name in third place. But to his shock, Aoife had ranked even higher. He congratulated her, though it stung that she had outperformed him in the practical exam. At the top of the list was Amy, the girl he had been searching for across lifetimes. A few days after the announcement, invitations were sent to all those accepted into the academy, marking the beginning of a new chapter for Saika and his companions. But Aoife wondered if her skirt was too short. Saika told her that it wasn't because he wanted it to be even shorter. As they walked towards the entrance ceremony, Saika sensed dark magic from behind the bushes, and Aoife realized something was off as she noticed dark elementals hiding inside. After walking deeper into the forest, they found a demonic sigil. But although Aoife thought it was evil, Saika told her to ignore it since it belonged to the school, while secretly releasing invisible talismans to monitor the area. Inside the hall, when the entrance ceremony began, Amy walked up the stage and announced that she was the representative for the new students. At the same time, the magic circle lit up outside, and as Saika sensed that monsters were drawing closer to the hall, the doors exploded at that instant. So, as lesser demons appeared before their eyes, the useless students began to run away. But Saika noticed they were searching for one of them. When one of the demons tried to end a girl, a sword sliced his hand as Amy appeared to save the girl. And as she evaded his strike, she launched wind lances across his body and told the disgusting students to get out of her way. Saika noticed the demons moved sluggishly, realizing they were being controlled from afar. Scanning the area, he located the caster hidden deep in the forest. Turning to Aoife, he instructed her to use her magic to run and hide if things became dangerous. Leaving his talisman behind, he teleported away. Soon, he approached the demon's location, calmly walking forward while reciting a haunting poem about a night beneath the full moon where one of them would meet their doom. But when the demon thought his poem was as useless as his Saika face, Saika said, "Roses are red, violets are blue. Your mom's a fat-ass gorilla that belongs in the zoo." Looking to end him immediately, the demon summoned lesser demons from a portal. But as he commanded them to attack, Saika cast a spell of falling fruit, ending the monsters before him. So, as the last one froze up from a protect spell, Saika opened a portal under him and sealed him inside another realm. Realizing Saika could use teleportation magic, the demon prepared to confront him. Summoning swords from smaller portals, he introduced himself as Galios, a demon of metal with mastery over fire and earth elements. When Saika attempted to cast a spell, Galios extinguished it effortlessly, declaring that magic would have no effect on him. Undeterred, Saika ignited paper talismans, but Galios shielded himself from the flames. As Saika summoned more, Galios burned them to ash instantly. To finish Saika, Galios launched a sword. Saika dodged, but the blade teleported back, slashing his face before he realized it. Galios smirked, explaining that he could wield black teleportation magic. Unleashing a wave of fire, Galios forced Saika to leap away, but the demon materialized behind him, severing his arm in a single strike. Bloodied but alive, Saika questioned Galios about his interest in the students. The demon revealed he was searching for the hero mentioned in the prophecy of the Demon Lord's reincarnation, and that he had already found her. Realizing Galios was referring to Amy, Saika braced himself as a dozen swords rained down on him. Dodging skillfully, he leapt over one only to be struck by double blades. Galios, confident he had won, left Saika for dead and turned toward Amy's location. But a low voice reciting ancient incantations stopped him. Galios turned to see Saika standing atop one of his swords, alive and unfazed. Furious, Galios hurled a blade at his skull, but it disintegrated on impact. Saika explained he had resurrected himself and cast a spell to eliminate anything foreign to his body. Enraged, Galios summoned 100 swords, vowing to destroy Saika and then kill Amy. Saika called him a fool, remarking that true strength lies in powerful allies. Galios dismissed his words, declaring reliance on others a sign of weakness, and launched an all-out attack. Saika evaded the barrage, countering with a spell that unleashed a massive waterfall. Galios teleported to avoid the deluge and attacked from above, but Saika had anticipated this move. With precise timing, he struck Galios with a bolt of lightning. As the smoke cleared, Saika searched for his foe, only to feel a sharp pain as Galios stabbed him from behind. However, this was part of Saika's strategy. In a final, unexpected twist, the talisman on Saika's body detonated in a powerful explosion, engulfing Galios in blinding light. But he managed to survive and began oozing with a red aura. He thought Saika would soon run out of those talismans and was ready to end his life. But Saika revealed more than 1,000 of them. He revealed that he had spent his entire life creating them, but was ready to end their battle, casting the dimensional gate to summon Mizuchi. So, as a dozen portals opened, a dragon emerged outside, and as it tried to eat Galios out, it ascended towards the moon, eventually devouring his body. Saika felt a wave of relief as the demon was destroyed. However, just as he prepared to return the dragon to its realm, it began struggling, attempting to escape. Realizing it was heading toward the academy, he quickly deployed his talismans to intercept it, successfully redirecting the creature before sealing it back into its realm. Troubled, Saika wondered how a weak deity like Mizuchi had managed to break free, but acknowledged that his current body was still frail. He resolved to grow stronger before commanding the remaining 4 deities. Suddenly, Yuki leapt onto him, revealing she had been hiding the entire time. She scolded him for recklessly letting himself be killed, but Saika calmly explained it was all part of his plan. His Shikigami allowed him to resurrect himself, ensuring his survival. When he returned to the hall, he found the students injured, and Ifa informed him that Amy had single-handedly defeated all the lesser demons. Hearing this, Saika recognized Amy as the ideal ally for his goals. Her strength would allow him to remain in the shadows, quietly advancing his plans. While he intended to befriend her, he coldly admitted to himself that he wouldn't mourn her loss if her sacrifice brought him closer to his happiness. Saika vowed to make Amy the strongest person in the world, even if it meant confronting the Demon King himself. A month later, Saika and Ifa had settled into life at the academy, with their paths unfolding toward an uncertain future. But when he saw Amy and tried to greet her, she told him to do a favor for humanity by ending his miserable life. A few minutes later, a clay jar appeared over them, and just as it spilled, Saika teleported them away but walked back as he thought something was off. However, Cordell appeared at the window, apologizing for his accident. So, after recovering the liquid, he told them that it was a catalyst for his research. But when Saika wondered what the clay jar was intended for, the instructor revealed that he was trying to levitate to the 3rd floor. Saika realized that only dark magic could manipulate gravity, sensing there was something more being hidden. During class, the teacher announced the school's anniversary and tasked Amy and Ifa with delivering the new student roster as an offering. Saika quickly understood they'd be traveling near Galios's magical circle. He then asked Ifa to relinquish her mission, commanding her to refuse the task and allow him to take her place. So, when she did, the teacher thought he was a disgrace to the noble families. But Saika said the only disgrace was her disgusting face. That evening, as they left the school, Saika confided in Ifa, telling her that Amy was in danger. He explained that he was taking her place to protect her, as Amy's battle with demons had made her a target. Saika vowed to watch her back. Ifa teasingly asked if he was interested in Amy because of her beauty, but Saika clarified that it was Amy's strength he sought, not her looks. He only wanted to be her friend. Ifa, determined to grow stronger, promised to help him, but Saika hoped she would support him in his mission, as Amy's power likely isolated her. On the day of the school ceremony, the teacher handed them the roster. As they entered the forest, Amy questioned Saika's decision to replace Ifa. Saika answered honestly, stating that he simply wanted to be her friend and hoped for a meaningful conversation with her. However, Amy thought that she couldn't satisfy him, especially when he already had a slave with massive milkers. But he told her that she was wrong and that she was exactly what he would look for on a beach because she was as flat as a surfboard.
Emotional damage!
As she thought he was in Saika creep, her mind was shocked at that instant. Saika felt a surge of dark magic nearby and immediately moved toward its source. As they ventured deeper, They stumbled upon a magic circle, and before they could react, a portal opened, transporting them to a dungeon. There, a group of lizard creatures emerged. Without hesitation, Amy charged, leaping over them and unleashing a devastating fireball that obliterated the monsters. But an orc appeared behind her, ready to strike. Saika quickly cast a spell that summoned a spike, crushing the orc's head. Amy had never seen such a spell before. As they searched for an exit, Saika conjured a spell to light their way, surprising Amy when she realized he could use light magic. Meanwhile, Saika sent signals through his talismans to guide his Shikigami outside. Just then, a horde of goblins rushed toward them. Amy dispatched them swiftly, blocking an attack and severing one creature's arm. But as another goblin struck her, sending her crashing into the wall, more charged forward. Saika cast a wood spell, impaling the attackers with stakes. But Amy lost consciousness in the midst of the battle. With the remaining goblins closing in, Saika decided to unleash his true power, summoning Oriyoshi from the divine gates of hell. The mighty entity wiped out all the goblins instantly. When Amy regained consciousness, she was astonished to find the monsters dead. However, Saika noticed her lingering pain and realized she had been under a curse. He quickly cast a light barrier, dispelling the curse and easing her suffering. However, when she thought there wasn't any curse sigils on her body, she asked him if he could look at her back before taking her clothes off, but he wasn't able to find anything behind her hair. However, he revealed that he just wanted her to take her clothes off since he had a different solution all along. So, with a strand of her hair, he moved the curse onto one of his talismans, telling her that it was her new substitute. And so, they sat together for hours. But Amy wondered if he's kissed Ifa or even developed plots with her yet. But when Saika told her that he didn't, she thought he was lame since shy girls like her are always freaky. However, he reminded her that she just took her clothes off in a dungeon. But after his ass was knocked out, they went on to eliminate all the goblins until they arrived at the boss's chamber. As the Naga prepared to confront them, Saika swiftly activated his stone magic, summoning impaling stakes. However, the creature retaliated with acid, nearly burning Saika's face off. He dodged the attack just in time, and Amy responded with a wind lance, but the monster's thick scales blocked the spell. Realizing that they needed more firepower, Saika summoned a spear and impaled the Naga into the ground. Amy followed up, blasting the creature with a fireball that detonated in an explosive burst. As the smoke cleared, Amy descended onto the Naga and drove her weapon deep into its body, killing it instantly. Saika rushed to her side, and she leapt into his arms, exhilarated by her first victory over a dungeon boss. Meanwhile, Yuki, who had been watching, asked Saika why he hadn't teleported out of the dungeon earlier. Saika casually explained that he wanted to experience the fight with Amy, giving her the chance to grow stronger and gain valuable battle experience, so she could become the strongest someday. As they continued through the dungeon, they discovered a mithril sword embedded in the monster's remains. Saika extracted it, causing the creature's body to disintegrate. He handed the sword to Amy, and while inspecting the area, Saika noticed a magical ring on the floor. He recognized it as a powerful artifact and remarked on how much fun it was to be an adventurer. Amy, curious about his future plans, asked what he would do when he grew older. Saika promised that they would go adventuring together again, a promise that made Amy's heart soar. After escaping the dungeon, Saika reported the discovery of the secret labyrinth beneath the school to Professor Karen. However, he kept quiet about Amy's curse and the true origin of his magic. That night, Saika visited Cordell's lab, where he revealed that he had already figured out Cordell's plan. He disclosed that Amy was recovering, making Cordell realize he had been exposed. Cordell, realizing his cover was blown, wondered how Saika had uncovered his secret. Saika casually explained that it was impossible for demons to have drawn a magical circle under the school, and with Cordell's unattractive appearance compared to the other instructors, Saika had immediately suspected him. Cordell reluctantly removed his disguise and confessed he was a demon spy. He explained that the potion in the pot was a revolutionary curse capable of killing anyone by making them appear to suffer from a regular illness. However, Cordell revealed that his real target was the hero, but Saika dismissed him as a fool. Saika then revealed his talisman, explaining that he had already removed the curse from Amy. Summoning a demon, Saika spilled its blood onto his body and invoked a spell to transfer the curse to its original creator. This was the power Saika had inherited from his previous life as the cursed exorcist. With a cold smile, Saika informed Cordell, "He who curses someone digs 2 graves." As Saika's spell took effect, Cordell's organs began to rupture and explode, signaling the end of his life. Saika revealed to him that he was the only one in this world capable of dispelling curses, making it incredibly unlucky for Cordell to have crossed paths with him. Later, as Saika and Ifa walked upstairs, Ifa asked how Saika had known it was Cordell. Saika explained that his Shikigami had detected the same pollen on Cordell's body as on the demonic circle, confirming his identity as a demon spy. Finally, Saika gave the magical ring to Ifa, who immediately noticed that the elementals were drawn to it. Just then, Saika noticed Amy walking by, but as he tried calling for her, she told him to jump off a cliff and hug the ground already. As Saika wondered if his face was that ugly, Amy decided to thank Ifa for helping her study, and Saika wondered when those worthless chicks became friends. 1 year later, while celebrating their sophomore year, the vice principal appeared before Saika and his slave, saying that the principal wishes to speak with them before leaving right away. Saika had an uneasy feeling about the principal, unaware that a girl was secretly watching them. The next day, when they entered the principal's office, she welcomed them warmly. Upon seeing Saika, she remarked that he resembled his uncle, sparking Saika's curiosity about why his father had never mentioned a brother. The principal then invited him to participate in the mixed discipline tournament in the capital, a prestigious event for both mages and swordsmen. She suggested Saika could represent the school and summoned a new girl into the room. The girl introduced herself as Mabel, but Saika didn't recognize her. Amy, upset about not being invited, asked if Saika was going. Mabel's presence made Saika curious, and he mentioned he had an interest in the tournament. As they left the school, Amy speculated that Mabel had been chosen by some noble family. She mocked Mabel, saying she probably hadn't faced any real struggles. But Mabel, who had quietly followed them, revealed she had indeed experienced hardships. Amy, eager to prove herself, challenged Mabel to a duel, and Mabel accepted, picking up a practiced sword. Saika instantly recognized Mabel's skill. She was as talented as Amy. The duel began with Amy charging forward, but Mabel blocked her strikes with dark magic. The two clashed swords fiercely, but Mabel easily disarmed Amy, sending her sword flying. Mabel won the spar effortlessly. Before leaving, Mabel told Amy that she was weak for someone who was supposed to be the hero. When Amy protested that they weren't meant to use magic, Mabel dismissed her excuses, claiming they would only make her weaker. She then turned to Saika, warning him he'd get hurt in the tournament. Saika thanked her for the advice as she walked away. The following day, they began heading off to the capital for the tournament. But Saika was wondering why the fuck he was stuck with Ifa's and Amy's disgusting faces. When Ifa began saying that she's his servant and should stay by his side at all times, Amy revealed that she's never been to the capital before and wanted to see it. However, Saika knew she was lying since her only desire was to watch Mabel in the tournament. So, when he asked her where she would be sleeping, she said that she would sleep in Ifa's bed. But Mabel thought they were all pathetic. After all, they were the same age, but they acted as if they were children without a care in the world. However, Ifa revealed that she was a year older than them. And although Amy was shocked at first, she realized that it explained her massive personality. Upon arriving at the capital, the girls quickly realized Saika was suffering from motion sickness, while they noticed Mabel had mysteriously vanished from their group. After arriving at the tournament grounds, Saika decided to investigate why the academy had chosen him instead of Amy. The next day, as the tournament was set to begin, Saika examined his amulet and discovered it was designed to absorb magical attacks, though it would shatter after taking too many. Just then, the announcer introduced him as the first participant. His opponent, a mercenary from the Gars mercenary band, threatened Saika, claiming this would be his last day alive. However, Saika, unbothered, casually mentioned his headache and exhaustion, warning his opponent that he would end the fight in one move. The mercenary, angered by Saika's nonchalant attitude, attacked as soon as the match began. But when his sword pierced what seemed like Saika's body, he realized it was only a talisman. Saika materialized behind him and blasted him into the wall, knocking him out cold. The announcer declared Saika the victor. As Saika walked through the tunnel, Yuki urged him to purposely lose his next match, fearing he was drawing too much attention. But as Saika rejoined the girls, the second round commenced. To his surprise, his next opponent was a sorcerer named Ford. Ford's opponent, a man named Kyle from the Rugrock Merchant Association, entered the arena. When the match began, Kyle immediately cast a spell that froze Ford in place. As he approached, he effortlessly pierced Ford's body, making him the tournament's first fatality. Saika observed Kyle's calm demeanor and realized he was a seasoned killer, likely with a dark past that would make him a criminal. He wondered why someone like him was sent to participate in the tournament. Saika also deduced that Kyle was a caster, and one capable of using spiritual power in his gaze, cursing opponents with his evil eye. When the second round began, Saika was summoned into the arena once more. His opponent appeared, but to his surprise, it was a puppet, a golem. Saika quickly realized he was facing off against a mage who specialized in anti-magic combat. The golem's creator, from behind the puppet, confidently stated that Saika had no chance of winning. But Saika was undeterred. He summoned a ghost, which swiftly slashed the golem with rapid strikes, causing it to collapse in pieces. The announcer, confused, assumed Saika had used wind magic to destroy it. But Saika, now angered, threatened the announcer, causing her to immediately surrender. The crowd was left in stunned silence, but Saika's focus remained sharp. He was just beginning to understand the true nature of the tournament and the enemies he would have to face. As Saika walked down the tunnel, he felt a sense of relief that his trick had gone unnoticed. He quietly told Yuki that summoning a monster into the arena could lead to disqualification, as it was forbidden to incarnate beasts. When he rejoined the girls, the next round was about to begin, and Saika noticed Mabel preparing for her match. Her opponent, Horo, known as the Brick Wall, boasted that he would easily crush her with his earth magic. The match began, and Horo immediately launched a blast of rocks toward Mabel. But she effortlessly sliced through them, leaving him stunned. Horo continued to unleash more rock blasts, but Mabel sliced through each one, advancing closer to him. Realizing his attacks were futile, Horo cast a protective stone wall, reinforcing it with additional spells. But Mabel, unfazed, threw daggers that shattered the wall instantly. Desperately, Horo summoned multiple stone barriers, but Mabel dismantled them one by one. Saika observed that she was likely using gravity magic. As Horo attempted to retreat, Mabel dashed toward him, slicing his staff in half. The sight of his impending defeat was clear, and Horo, with no other choice, surrendered. The announcer declared Mabel the winner, calling her the red-haired hero. However, Saika's curiosity was piqued. He wondered how Mabel had become known as the hero. Aoife explained that the second hero in history was also named Mabel, a swordswoman with incredible skill. Though it appeared to be a convenient cover story, Saika sensed she was concealing something, and he resolved to uncover her secrets. Later, at dawn, a man preparing to send a message to the demons dispatched a pigeon. But before the bird could take flight, a larger bird swooped in, capturing it. Saika then appeared before the man, revealing that he had discovered his role as a spy for the demons and had followed him to this location. When Saika demanded to know the contents of the message, the man sneered and tried to leave, dismissing him. As the man assumed Saika was defenseless, he made an attempt on his life. However, Saika reacted swiftly, casting a spell that bound him with vines, restraining his movements. Realizing that Saika had already uncovered his secret, the spy, named Gaza, wondered how Saika had found him. Saika revealed that he had been spying on Gaza through the eyes of an owl and demanded to know who he had been watching. But when Gaza wouldn't say, Saika revealed that he would interrogate his soul. So, as he summoned Satori, the fifth deity from the heavenly gates of hell, it began to read his mind, as it gave him nightmare fuel, revealing every single thought he had. Just as Saika was asking the questions, she revealed that he was after the hero Mabel Crane, since she was born at the same time as the ancient prophecies and happened to be a female with red hair who was the strongest wielder of the sword in their academy. With Saika having already learned everything he wished to know, he decided to release the ugly loser but told Satori to eat him as her reward. At that moment, Satora devoured him. But when she was done, she began to read Saika's own mind, as he felt bad for killing an innocent man. However, Saika grew angry and threatened to kill her where she stood. But as he decided to summon the portal, Satori returned into her realm. With the coast clear, Saika called for his bird, and as it retrieved the message, he decided to open it. However, it was written in an unusual code, and Saika wished he asked how he could decode the message. Luckily, he already discovered the Academy's true motive and thought they were trying to make Mabel win the contest, so that the demons would be convinced that she's the true hero, forgetting about Amy's existence. When Yuki wondered if he has discovered why the principal chose him for the second slot, Saika revealed that he would figure out the entire truth in a matter of time. The next day, as the semifinals approached, Mabel confronted Saika in the tunnel, demanding he forfeit. She warned him that the tournament was far more dangerous than he realized. Saika, however, refused to let her decide his fate and stood firm, unwilling to back down. Mabel coldly declared that she would not lose to him and was even prepared to kill him. Despite her threats, Saika remained resolute. When the first match of the semifinals began, Reinaz, a mage, stepped into the arena, facing Kyle. Reinaz immediately cast a light spell to protect himself from Kyle's vile gaze, but Kyle advanced undeterred. Desperate, Reinaz launched a fireball, followed by a barrage of elemental attacks. Yet Kyle remained completely unharmed. Saika quickly deduced that Kyle was using gravity magic to repel the attacks. Reinaz summoned an army of golems, hoping to overwhelm Kyle, but Kyle conjured a purple shadow that pierced them all, shattering the creatures with ease. As Reinaz rushed forward to finish the fight, Kyle restrained him with his shadow magic. Saika noticed the similarity between their magic, realizing that Kyle's abilities were far more formidable than he had anticipated. Just as Kyle raised his sword to strike the final blow, a whistle rang out, signaling the judge's intervention. The announcer declared Kyle the winner, bringing the match to an abrupt end. That night, Saika found himself contemplating whether he should forfeit his own match, wondering if the risks were worth the reward. The next day, he noticed that Yuki was snuggling close to his body, and she asked if she could sleep with him. But at that moment, Saika Owl spotted Mabel on his roof, and as he dived out of the way, the roof collapsed on his bed. Through the smoke, he spotted Mabel on the other side and wondered why her ugly-ass face was caught blocking him. Without an answer, she hurled a knife at the wall and immediately tackled him out of the window. But he managed to kick her off, creating a distance between them. As Mabel hurled a knife at Saika, he swiftly dodged it, attempting to restrain her. But she sliced through the vine, stabbing him before his form vanished from her sight. Reacting quickly, Saika cast an internal release spell to blast her away, but Mabel maintained her balance. Impressed by her strength, Saika knew he couldn't let her escape. Just then, a bystander appeared, questioning the noise. Mabel, nearly ending his life, seized the opportunity to flee, and Saika realized she had vanished. Determined, he vowed to find her before dawn. Eventually, Saika found Mabel by a fountain, but instead of fighting, he told her he wanted to talk. She wondered why he was there, and Saika explained that he knew her true intentions. She planned to die in Amy's place, drawing the demons away from the real hero. By sacrificing herself, she hoped the demons would believe the hero was dead. However, Mabel revealed a deeper motive. She confessed that she also sought to eliminate Kyle, explaining that both she and Kyle were trained by the Rugrock Merchant Association, which turned enslaved children into mercenaries. The association created this tournament to test Kyle's abilities, having implanted magic into his brain, stripping him of his emotions. The children were trained in groups, forming bonds, but only one would be chosen as a mercenary. As the last survivor of her group, Mabel believed it was her duty to end Kyle, who had already killed her brother. She vowed to defeat him in the finals, believing that would restore her honor. But after hearing those words, Saika thought she wasn't only flat, but was also a liar. He knew that Kyle was actually her brother, and that her red hair was only a disguise to convince everyone that she's the hero. Realizing he's discovered everything, she decided to reveal the truth and said she intends to kill Kyle to free his soul. However, Saika thought she was too weak to do so and said he would defeat Kyle in the finals. As she began thinking it wasn't possible, He told her that he's the strongest man in their world and believed that Kyle's only desire was to see her free from the association. But Mabel vowed to defeat him anyway. The following day, when it was time for their round, he told her to give it her best shot. But she thought he was a useless noble kid who's been spoiled his entire life. So, as she flashed behind him, she nearly slashed him in half. And as she destroyed the rubble, she sliced him apart, but realized it was only a piece of paper. As Saika launched rocks towards Mabel, she deftly dodged them. But when she threw her knives, Saika blocked them with a protective barrier. As the dust cleared, he unleashed binding vines to restrain her, yet she charged at him. In response, Saika activated his falling fruit spell, followed by a mercury binding vine spell, which finally held her in place. Realizing she couldn't break free, Mabel attempted to lift her axe, but Saika cast a spell of floating leaves, pretending to end her life. The whistle blew, signaling the judge's decision, and Saika was declared the winner. In the final round, Saika faced Kyle. As Saika mentioned Mabel's survival, Kyle coldly stated he would kill her after the tournament, revealing he had completely lost all emotion for her. Saika vowed to make him regret his actions. As the battle began, Saika cast a red mist, nullifying Kyle's evil eye. When Kyle approached, Saika blasted him with ghost light, but Kyle remained unharmed. Saika summoned mercury binding vines to restrain him, but Kyle's purple shadow destroyed them effortlessly. As Kyle's shadow lashed out, Saika's barrier repelled it, but he realized their battle was futile. Then, the divine gates of hell materialized before Kyle's eyes. Saika summoned Ashioni, the fifth deity, and the Minotaur emerged from the dimension. Kyle's shadows attacked it, but Ashioni's skin, stronger than steel, easily withstood the blows, and the beast bashed his worthless face. With Kyle knocked unconscious, Saika thought he lost because he was never able to recognize his own limits. But as a seal began spreading across his body, the curse began eating away at him even when inside of the barrier. As Saika began wondering how he could save him, Kyle stopped him and asked him to apologize to Mabel on his behalf. However, Saika grew angry at the thought of being bested by a curse. Saika summoned 1,000 talismans, preparing to cast a spell to lift Kyle's curse and revive him. But as a beacon ascended into the sky, Yuki warned him of the dangers of using such a powerful spell, fearing it would expose his hidden abilities to everyone in the arena. Remembering the cost of his past mistakes, Saika halted the spell. When the battle ended, Kyle mysteriously vanished, and Saika claimed he had erased him without a trace. After the tournament, he buried Kyle outside the capital, allowing Mabel to say her final goodbyes. She confessed she had known her brother was cursed all along. The next day, Saika went to the principal's office, revealing that he had kept his promise to save Mabel. She acknowledged that he had uncovered the truth and explained that the tournament had always been part of the association's plan to test Kyle's capabilities as a mercenary. After Saika arrived at the cafeteria, he noticed that Mabel had dyed her hair purple but thought she was somehow even uglier now.
Damn!
Even so, when he wondered why she didn't visit him last night, she told him that he was drilling her too hard and wanted to practice feeling his sword striking her body slowly. As Saika told her that it was her best hope for passing the exams, she began saying that her body was sore already and asked for Ifa to try and talk to him. However, Ifa thought Saika should pound his lessons even harder into her, and Mabel realized she was screwed. A few weeks later, with their summer break drawing close, Saika revealed that he was heading to the kingdom of Astelia to investigate a rogue dragon. But just then, an ugly moron entered the cafeteria. And as he began saying he could buy all these broke wages, Amy wondered who the fuck this virgin was. Right then, he noticed Saika at his table and decided to introduce himself as Cecilio, the crown prince of Astelia. So, as Saika heard these words, he welcomed him to the academy. But Cecilio noticed Aoife and thought she was the most beautiful girl he's ever seen. So, he decided to use his best Discord pickup line, asking if her legs were a rope because he wants to strangle himself in between them. However, she revealed that she was a slave and was Saika's servant, with Cecilio wishing to make her his coffin because he'd loved to be inside of her. He told Saika to name his price, but his assistant told him that he's embarrassing himself in front of the others. A few minutes later, while inside a private room, Cecilio began telling Saika that the robe dragon had lived in peace with the kingdom for a century, but was now beginning to attack the castle and was growing worse every day. Just then, he noticed Ifa's massive cannons and began suggesting they have dinner together, but his assistant told him to restrain himself. As Saika left the room later that day, while this worthless shithead was heading back to the school, Amy pulled him into the bush and demanded to know what was happening. So, after he revealed everything and began saying that he was willing to give Ifa away if she decides to join Cecilio's harem, the girls thought he was a moron. They had always known that Ifa was in love with him. So, Mabel warned him to never ask Ifa if she was willing to join Cecilio's harem, as she thought it would hurt her feelings. A few days later, while riding off to Syria, Ifa began telling Saika that Cecilio had asked her to ride his huge dragon, but she thought he had no intention of adding her to his harem. However, Saika told her that he meant every word he said. But when she thought it made her happy, he wondered what this awful feeling brewing inside of him was. As they arrived in Astelia, Ifa admired the breathtaking view. Suddenly, Cecilio appeared, lamenting the kingdom's loss of glory ever since the dragon's rampage. As the dragon soared overhead, a man summoned a lava tiger, charging at the beast but narrowly missing. The dragon shifted focus to Ifa, rushing toward her. Saika quickly summoned ice crystals to block its path, but the tiger's heat was overwhelming. Just as the tiger leaped toward him, a magical chain restrained it, and the summoner appeared. Saika was puzzled by the summoner's appearance and asked who the disheveled man was. Cecilio explained that the man, Zekt, was the head of the mercenaries hired to slay the dragon. Saika was skeptical, questioning why Cecilio would hire someone in such a condition. Zekt, boasting about his dragon-slaying experience, revealed he had gone through 7 rehab cycles. Saika, unimpressed, pointed out his obvious drug withdrawal symptoms. As Cecilio tried to separate them, he ordered Zak to leave for his next rehab session. Once Zak was gone, Saika turned to Ifa, about to accept her gratitude, but instead, he scolded her for not using magic to defend herself. He questioned what she would have done if he hadn't been there to save her, wondering if bringing her along had been a mistake. As she started to cry, Cecilio tried saying she merely froze up, but Saika told him to shut his stupid-ass haircut up and commanded Ifa to protect herself with magic next time. Saika felt guilty for his harsh words to Ifa, but he believed it was necessary to make her understand the gravity of the situation. In his past life, he had frozen when his older student was devoured by a dragon, only managing to seal it later. He feared the same fate might befall Ifa and knew that pushing her to be more alert was the only way to protect her. The next day, they dug into the dragon's history, learning that it had once shared a mountain with a female dragon. After hatching younger dragons, they began attacking people. Saika speculated that the same might be happening now, but the records stated that only the male dragon remained. Ifa questioned how it could hatch offspring alone. Determined to find answers, Saika decided to climb the mountain to confront the dragon up close. Though Ifa warned that it could be fatal, Saika was resolute, insisting that he would go regardless. That night, as Ifa appeared at his door, she told him that Cecilio had invited her to his room to polish his sword and wondered what she should do. As he said he would talk to that Karen haircut moron, she hesitated to tell him why she was really here. So he invited her inside. But as they laid in his bed, he realized he was too much of a pussy to make any move, and this was why he died a virgin in his past life. Saika, curious about Ifa's feelings, asked if she would consider joining Cecilio's harem. Surprised, Ifa asked why he was asking, and Saika explained that joining a royal harem was considered a great honor by many girls. She then asked if he'd be okay with her leaving, to which Saika responded that, although he would be upset at first, he would ultimately be happy for her if she chose her own path. Hearing his words, Ifa promised to follow his wishes but silently wept throughout the night, her feelings unnoticed by Saika. The next morning, Saika realized Ifa was gone, and Yuki, sensing the tension, felt bad about the situation. Saika, however, thought it was just a fleeting crush. Yuki disagreed, urging him to recognize Ifa's deeper feelings before it was too late. Later, Saika met with Cecilio over tea and mentioned his plans to climb the mountain to find the dragon. Cecilio, hearing this, realized Saika would be away for several days and thought it would be the perfect opportunity to try to persuade Ifa. Saika, though, was already wary of Cecilio's intentions and hoped he would stay away from her. Meanwhile, an elf girl named Lizzie approached Aoife, sensing her magical aura. Lizzie revealed she was a descendant of elves and explained that the elementals had led her to Aoife. She warned Aoife that being with Saika, whom she believed to be a demon, was dangerous. Lizzie urged her to join Cecilio's harem instead, suggesting she couldn't remain Saika's slave forever. Aoife, adamant that Saika wasn't a demon, defended him, stating they had grown up together. Lizzie, however, insisted one of Saika's parents must have been a demon and encouraged Aoife to run away from him, offering to show her the mansion. At the same time, Saika had reached the dragon's lair atop the mountain. As the dragon spotted him, it unleashed a powerful breath of fire, but Saika's barrier held strong. When the dragon charged, Saika vanished instantly and summoned a stone monster to distract it. The sixth deity appeared, landing atop the creature and emitting a high-pitched frequency that weakened the dragon before vanishing into the gates of hell. As the dragon began to recover, Saika trapped it with a net spell. Inside the dragon's nest, Saika discovered the dragon was guarding an egg, which led him to realize the creature had likely transformed into a female. He recalled the legend of the Astelia princess, who was said to have hatched a dragon egg. Realizing the egg needed to be positioned with both ends pointing toward the sky, Saika carefully moved it, confirming that the legend was likely true. At Cecilio's mansion, Lizzie continued showing Aoife around, saying she would be treated better than the others if she managed to become Cecilio's favorite wife. On top of that, she would be allowed to participate in the government and would even become a powerful official. But Aoife's only desire was to stay at Saika's side. At the same time, Saika had grown exhausted from moving the dragon egg, and even the dragon had decided to make him the egg keeper. However, Saika was glad that the dragon was no longer out of control, and as it drew him closer, he realized that it was growing attached to him. At the mansion, Aoife encountered Cecilio, who hoped Lizzie had successfully persuaded her to join his harem. One of his men was busy drafting her liberation tax, and Cecilio explained he was preparing the paperwork for her freedom. He was willing to buy her freedom at any cost. But Aoife, terrified of being separated from Saika, told him she would rather remain a slave forever. Cecilio, believing she was just confused, insisted that he would buy her freedom regardless. He warned her that Saika was dangerous and that she couldn't stay with him. However, Aoife disagreed. She firmly stated that she wished to stay with Saika for the rest of her life. Despite her defiance, the men around her were determined to complete her slave contract. One of them coldly suggested that Aoife would eventually thank them for forcing her into submission. His words struck Aoife deeply, making her realize she was surrounded by deranged individuals. As the guards closed in, Lizzie threatened to kill her if she tried to use magic. Aoife soon realized they were all sealed within a barrier. Lizzie fired a wind lance, grazing Aoife's thumb, but as Aoife tried to grab the contract, the dragon suddenly broke through the barrier. From its head, Saika appeared, much to Aoife's relief. Saika explained that he had befriended the dragon, and it would no longer attack the kingdom. However, Cecilio had to ensure the dragon egg stayed warm. Saika turned to Aoife, suggesting that, since she could use fire magic, she should keep the egg warm. He invited her to join him on the dragon. Lizzie tried to intervene, urging Aoife to return, but Aoife rejected her, declaring Saika the love of her life and choosing to stay with him. So, as they rode away on the dragon, Aoife wished she could ride something else. But when Saika asked her, "What do you mean by that?" she told him that she didn't say anything. After arriving on top of the mountain, Aoife noticed the dragon egg. But as the useless summoner called forth the lava tiger, it tried to devour them. Saika encased the dragon in a transparent fortress, just as Zect and his team appeared. Realizing they were after the dragon egg, Zect threatened to kill Saika to protect his secret and mocked Prince Cecilio's incompetence. As the tiger melted through the fortress and charged, a tall fountain of water erupted, sweeping the tiger away. Saika realized it was Aoife's magic. She had activated the power in her ring and declared to Zect that she was sending him back to rehab. Zect, undeterred, ordered the tiger to attack again and commanded his men to join in. Saika remained calm and unleashed white flames, incinerating the tiger instantly. As he prepared to deal with the men, the dragon appeared before them, sending the attackers fleeing in terror. Saika quickly restrained them with binding vines, while Ifa neutralized Zect and burned his spellbook. Saika praised Ifa, impressed by her newfound strength and mastery of water magic. Later, back at the mansion, Saika explained everything to Cecilio, who decided to imprison Zect and his men. When Cecilio questioned how Saika had befriended the dragon, Saika explained that by helping the dragon care for its egg, he had earned its trust. He believed the legend of the queen was true, that her bond with the dragon had made it protect the kingdom for centuries. However, Cecilio, angered by the dragon's apparent rogue behavior, ordered his knights to arrest Saika, blaming him for the dragon's defiance. Deciding to play along, Saika agreed to follow the knights. But when Cecilio began telling Ifa that she's finally free and can now become his woman, Saika smacked his hand away, having had enough of his bullshit. Saika told him that he had only gone along with his arrest because of their useless politics, but realized that he was only after Ifa this entire time. He called him a spoiled little kid and told him that he could never give Ifa away to him. At that moment, Lizzie realized that she had seen enough and asked to know Ifa's own feelings. Without hesitating, Ifa told Cecilio that she wanted to stay by Saika's side forever because even if she wasn't his slave, she wouldn't join his useless royal harem. After he was rejected, Lizzie told Cecilio that his dyke-ass haircut was the reason. And as she thanked Saika for taming the dragon, she asked to speak with Ifa in private. Inside a different room, Lizzie realized that Ifa was in love with him, so she asked for her hand, giving her the ability to tame the light elements. She thought that she was just like the elfin princess in the legends, so she believed that Saika would recognize her beauty one day. In a forest, a group of sorcerers were hunting monsters when their leader asked a man about the hero's whereabouts. Just then, a massive one-eyed monster appeared. The man was relieved to have summoned it with his last bit of magic. The leader, drawing his sword, charged but was struck by the monster's axe, breaking his weapon. Using a dispel circle to repel the monster's attack, the leader swiftly defeated it. Returning to the man, he ordered his comrades to devour him and hoped they would find the hero soon. A few days later, Saika returned to the academy and asked Amy to meet his family, inviting her to join him for spring break. As she agreed to follow him, Saika decided to invite Mabel as the third wheel. However, as he began to leave, he realized he wasn't eager to return home as he had no wish to see the useless guest in their mansion. He thought only his presence would draw attention and was afraid that it would cost him his life once again. The next day, as they arrived at Saika's mansion, Luft greeted them. Saika noticed he looked less unattractive than he remembered. Suddenly, Gly shouted Saika's name. Seeing him in armor, Saika wondered if he'd joined the army. Gly responded that it was the perfect place for him, but still held a grudge over their last fight, challenging Saika to another duel. Ifa, recognizing Gly as the one who had tormented her, warned Amy about him. Amy, however, stepped forward, saying she would take on Gly instead. Gly scoffed, asking who this bitch was, but Saika assured him that Amy was much stronger than him. Gly, eager for a challenge, agreed to the duel on the condition that Amy use her real sword, while he would fight with a wooden one. Saika, confident in Amy's abilities, declared that they would fight without magic. Amy attacked first, but Gly blocked her strikes. She increased the pressure with each blow, forcing Gly back. However, when she attempted to finish him, he feigned casting a spell, distracting her long enough to knock her sword out of her hands. Gly declared victory, claiming that he hadn't used magic and that all tricks were fair on the battlefield. Turning to Saika, Gly challenged him next, saying he'd heard about Saika's win in the martial arts tournament and believed he would be a worthy opponent. But at that moment, a hot girl arrived, wondering why her holy knight intends to fight in a duel. She thought the fight was meaningless and told Gly to give his meaningless life a purpose. So, as Gly decided to withdraw from the fight, Saika wondered how she forced him to listen. But Gly introduced the girl as Princess Fiona, and the girls were shocked. They were meeting the Holy Princess. While inside the mansion, Yuki began wondering who the Holy Princess really is. So, Saika revealed that she was born from a priestess and that her father was the emperor. Inside a private room, the princess began saying that she had been waiting to meet them and thought Amy looks exactly like the hero in the fairy tales. As she noticed Saika, she decided to thank him for showing up and said she wishes he would become one of her knights. But Saika told her that her wishes were as worthless as her face. That night, Fiona wondered if Aoife was Saika's girlfriend, but Aoife began choking harder than she does on Saika's meat. At the same time, his father remembered the day he asked Aoife's father to confess the truth about if he was upset that Aoife left for the magical academy. However, Edie was only mad that he made her the servant of the disgusting bastard child. Blaze sternly told his son never to speak those words again, knowing well his son's worth. He then praised Saika for saving the Astelia kingdom, as news of his triumph had spread across the nations. However, his mother, in a voice he had never heard before, asked him to write home more often. He couldn't help but notice how raspy and worn out her voice sounded, like someone who had smoked for decades, a stark contrast to what he had imagined. Later that night, as Amy visited Saika in his room, he told her that she shouldn't be entering his room to have a duel with his sword at night. But she told him that he's already seen her without any plot armor. However, she asked him what he was planning to do after graduating the lower grades. As Saika's mother revealed her plan to return to adventuring, Saika reminded her of the promise they made in the dungeon, where he vowed to join her on her adventures. He was unsure about what being an adventurer truly meant, but wondered if she might become his mentor when the time came. She agreed, expressing excitement for their first adventure together before leaving the room. Once alone, Yuki confronted Saika, reminding him that he had once used Amy to hide his power behind hers. Saika calmly replied that he could never forget that. The next day, while giving Fiona a tour of the town, GLY suggested that Saika and his team should work together to protect the princess. As they walked through the market, Fiona took Saika's hand, eager to be close to him. She then noticed a young couple and began to wonder how she could get closer to Saika. Amy, ever the strategist, proposed that they put their lives in danger to forge a special bond. Fiona, eager to make a move, led them to a construction site and suggested they take a closer look. In the midst of this, a rope snapped, and boards began to fall toward them. GLY and Amy immediately cast spells, protecting the group from the falling debris. However, Fiona was disappointed when Saika didn't cast any spells, expecting him to save her. To make it up to her, Saika decided to buy Fiona a gift. Later in an alley, he fixed her scarf and presented her with a quartz mirror so she could admire herself. Fiona was pleased with the gift and confessed that she loved it. The following day, Saika encountered GLY while training. Saika wondered aloud if he was showing off his status as a holy knight, but GLY revealed that the title wasn't as prestigious as it seemed. Being named a holy knight was a political move orchestrated by Princess Fiona, who valued the title more for its public appeal than Saika's actual skill. GLY explained that Saika's promotion was part of a larger, secret plan. Fiona, despite her political maneuverings, had managed to rise from humble origins to become the favorite for the throne. When Saika asked how she managed this, GLY revealed that Fiona had inherited the ability to see the future, a gift she shared with her mother, the Oracle Princess. Fiona had already known about Amy's role as the hero and had sought her out intentionally. GLY, sensing Saika's awareness of this, warned him to be cautious. He cautioned that Fiona's true goal was not just to protect the Empire but to ultimately take control of it. But Saika thought there was more to it. So, later that day, when she began searching for him all over the mansion, Saika hid inside the bushes, having grown sick of her ugly face. But as Amy began walking by, he popped up before her, nearly scaring her off. When she realized that he was hiding from Fiona, she suggested he spends the day with her, having noticed she was eager to find him. So, a few minutes later, Saika decided to join her on the balcony. Fiona challenged Saika to a game of chess and he agreed. Before they started, she proposed a bet. The loser would owe the winner a favor. Despite knowing he couldn't win, Saika accepted. As the game progressed, Fiona asked Saika who he believed the strongest chess piece in the world was. He guessed it was her, thinking she could control soldiers and powerful figures from a hidden position. Fiona considered his answer smart but told him the true mastermind always remains out of sight. She then revealed her belief that pawns were the most powerful, as a united people could overthrow an empire. She aimed to win the people's support, thinking it would make her the rightful heir to the throne. With a confident smile, Fiona declared she would win. Saika, however, already suspected she had the ability to see the future. Fiona realized he had discovered her secret and wondered if GLY had told him. Saika, though, revealed he had figured it out on his own. He recalled how she had interfered during his sparring match with GLY, believing she had seen GLY's defeat. Then, when she had led him to the spot where the rope had broken and nearly injured them, he was sure she had predicted the event. When Saika asked if she intended to use her ability to save the Empire, Fiona explained that the future was unpredictable and ever-changing. Realizing he had no chance of winning, Saika accepted his defeat. And at that moment, Fiona decided to tell him that she was intending to save someone that was close to her death, but was afraid that revealing the person would change the future. Deciding to be her personal bitch, Saika offered to help her. Meanwhile, in the forest, the group of demons had annihilated an army of bandits. And as the captain was glad to have seen them grow stronger, he told his men to consume all the bodies with his new Zorman ability, which granted him the power to see everyone's strength. Zor thought they would succeed and successfully kill the hero. As Saika and the others prepared to return to the academy, they noticed something strange about the forest after hours of travel. Suddenly, a carriage exploded in front of them. It was the decoy Fiona had set up. Saika quickly leapt onto the roof of their carriage to spot where the attackers were hiding. Just then, bandits appeared on a cliff, and their leader ordered a group of archers to target Fiona's carriage. In response, Saika cast his magnetic storm spell, creating a cloud that easily repelled the arrows. The leader, undeterred, commanded the archers to fire again. This time, another cloud blocked the arrows, leaving the leader puzzled about who Saika was. Realizing that most of the carriages were decoys, he ordered his men to use all their magic to target Fiona's carriage. One bandit cast a spell and hurled a rock at Saika, but it shattered upon hitting his barrier. Desperate, the leader commanded a direct assault. Just then, GLY emerged from the carriage, relieved that the bandits had run out of arrows. He rallied his men to charge, and they swiftly began to overpower the attackers. Fiona, however, instructed Saika to capture the bandits alive. Without hesitation, Saika summoned binding vines to restrain them. A few minutes later, as they secured the bandits, Saika asked Fiona why she chose to spare them, wondering if she planned to use them against her political enemies. Fiona explained that her only goal was to find those responsible for her assassination plot. Saika, though, felt it was dangerous to keep them alive. Fiona reassured him, saying she was safer now and that the other bandits had already been eliminated. The captured bandits, she explained, would wait in vain for a signal that would never come. Several days later, they arrived at the capital. Fiona looked at Saika and told him that she was on their side, urging him never to forget her before heading inside. At the same time, the group of demons were rushing towards the capital. But Zor wondered if they would all manage to escape after killing the hero. Even so, he was determined to end her life for the demon race. And as they spotted the capital before them, he thought their future was about to begin. Watch the next video. Till next time, let's do some plot development and like the video and don't forget to subscribe the channel.